Hello, everyone. This is Nick Allen. I'm with Better Together on our show today, and we are lucky and excited to introduce two folks that are working on a recall election for their county commissioner, Scott Mijares, and we wanted to invite them onto the show. So, Phoebe and Linda, welcome to Better Together.
Oh, thanks, Nick. It's
Thank
nice
you.
to be here.
Good, good. Well, we want to dive in and just learn more about you all so we can kind of educate our members on that everyone has a chance to be involved in their democracy. And then really just kind of hear about the case in front of us and what you have going on in Montrose. So, Phoebe, tell us a little bit about your background and then we'll talk about why you all got engaged.
I have lived in Montrose now for 43 years, so I am fully invested in our community. Worked as an office nurse for a family practice doctor for years. And when I retired, I can't even tell you how many years ago, it's been a while, I then took a deep dive into nonprofit work and community activism and just being really involved in the community because I had more time.
Hmm.
So that's it in a nutshell. I could go on and on. I have a husband and two children. One lives in Lakewood and one lives in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and I have two grandchildren.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, that
Congrats.
is wonderful.
Linda, tell us about yourself.
We moved to Montrose in 1978, and we've had farms and ranches, and I worked in the school district for about 26 years, and then I retired from the school district. And part of my work with the school district was grant writing, and we wrote grants to open up two school-based health centers, one at Northside, one in Olathe. Northside is still going strong with an unbelievably creative and talented nurse practitioner who runs it. And then the Olathe School-Based Health Center has grown so much that it is now a federally qualified health center called River Valley. So I'm really happy with that work and bringing that kind of resource to our community.
Hmm.
And yeah, so I think like Phoebe, I retired, and then when things pop up that you care about in your community, there's an opportunity to bring some, of our experience to help with that. And I think that's what brought us to this
Totally.
um, effort.
Yeah, well, both of you have experience, working hard in your community and that dedication. So, what triggered or set you all off to, start this recall effort?
Linda, I'll let you start. Yeah.
You want me to start?
Yeah.
Go ahead,
What?
Linda.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I I began to my husband was a county commissioner
Mm,
in the 90s here in Montrose. And so I've always watched because I know it's a difficult job. And he's a wonderful person. And, there are so many times where, the decisions you have to make are tough and it's never 100%. There's, some people are going to be happy and some people aren't. So I understand that dynamic of it. But what I appreciate about a good county commissioner or any elected official is that they've got to be a good listener.
mm,
They've got to understand how process works and be respectful. And early on, Scott Mahaddis demonstrated that he did not have those skills that I felt were important. He won his primary
hmm.
in a year ago, June, and he won by not a huge margin, 600 votes, I think.
Wow.
Republican primary, there were no Democrats running. And shortly after he won the primary, like I said, it was close. He began attending county commissioner meetings demanding, he used the word demand. I demand that you, the sitting three commissioners, pause important decisions they needed to make on replacing the county manager, on a very significant and important capital project. And the three commissioners said, well, thank you because you were community input. We
Right.
appreciate you saying that, but no, we've got work to do and we plan on doing it. So that was when I first started paying attention, and then it just kind of continued that sort of uh, style. of not understanding how things work, and somehow he thought his voice was more important than the rest of the commissioners who were elected or the rest of the citizens. So it just went from there. I guess that's what got me started.
Totally. Phoebe, how about you?
Nick, I never went to or even watched or even streamed Montrose County Board of County Commissioner meetings
Hmm.
because I'm on the City Planning Commission here in Montrose, which is busy enough. So I watched and went to a lot of city council meetings, but a lot that what Linda said, it almost shifted the air in this community. It's like, do you know what's happening out there? And we're a community that's pretty tight. And that
Hmm.
was very demonstrated in this last 5 weeks. And people are engaged and they knew that something was amiss. I mean, this Scott Mijares he's not lived in Montrose very long, a little over than 2 years.
Wow.
And he just didn't then and doesn't seem to know now much about our county and the residents in this county. And he was speaking on behalf of what he said was the whole county. And clearly it was representing a very, very small group of people that were telling him what to do and what they wanted to do.
Hmm.
And he was just so rude. He was so rude to a fellow county commissioner. He was rude to the staff. I mean, not just rude, but bullying. I mean, absolute, don't call it anything else, but bullied them. And that's just not acceptable. I mean, if you're going to be a reflection of Montrose County, then we expect you to be a positive reflection of Montrose County. And it didn't take long for the the option and the necessity of having and doing a recall was a very real thing, and not like, hey, let's do it for fun.
Right.
It did have some fun parts, don't get me wrong, but it became, we have to nip this in the bud before it just gets out of hand. So yeah.
How did you, it's a big decision, right? It's a large undertaking. You have to collect, was it 25% of signatures of the last vote count?
Mhm.
So it was yeah, over like what, how many in total did you need to collect?
We needed four,
4,540.
yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
ballot
So
ballot signatures, Nick.
right,
Right.
right, exactly. And so, I mean, that's a huge undertaking. When did you finally just say, all right, we're doing it, we're going? And what did that process look like?
Well,
Well,
I'll
we met
start with,
in
yeah.
we
Let me
met
start
in
with this.
Phoebe's
Yeah.
kitchen.
Yeah.
Okay. Always a
Right,
great place to
Yeah.
organize.
right around the corner from where she's sitting right now.
Right
There
around
were
the
about
corner.
4 of us, and there had been this sort of buzz in the community, and it again, you can go to the public videos of the Board of County Commissioner meetings and
Hmm.
community input. People would say, recall, recall. They kept saying recall, and social media, just because of the way he was demonstrating his leadership style. And I think, to me, everything kind of went lopsided when we sadly had a very beloved county commissioner who was elected the same time that Scott Mijares was. His name was Rick Dunlap,
Mm.
and he was a fellow Republican, as is Mijares, and he passed away suddenly with a heart attack in February. He was sworn in January, passed away in February. It's hard to know, like, what if. I don't like to live in
Right.
the what if world, but what if
Yeah.
if that had not happened? I don't think we'd be where we were, because Rick was a moderate. He was sensible. He had leadership experience. Um, but when that happened, and the Republican Central Committee replaced him with Sean Pond, I feel like that dynamic is when everything shifted in our county. I feel like before that we had solid leadership. Things were getting done, roads were getting paved, people were getting hired, budgets were getting built. And then everything just went topsy-turvy with that. And that's when we kept hearing, you're going to get recalled. You're going to get recalled. And no, I'm not. No, I'm not. And I'm like, well, maybe.
Yeah.
Right. Find
Well,
out here.
and you got to know, Nick, that it's a beautiful thing, part of democracy, that we can do a recall.
Hmm.
Whether we're successful in this or not, just the fact that we hold our elected officials accountable is just a nice option that we have. And there were many people, like Linda said, different organizations like, I'm going to do a recall, I'm going to do a recall, I'm going to do a recall. And but none of them seemed to be stepping up to the plate.
Hmm.
So at that point, Linda and myself and a couple others had meetings. And let's be clear, it wasn't a slam dunk right out of our first meeting. We kind of said, well, let's hope that things change. Let's hope
Yeah.
that he kind of hears some of this negative stuff. Maybe he hears that'll be a recall and he will say, oh, I don't want to go through that. I obviously need to change a lot of things, in my
Right.
opinion. But the irony is it just got worse. I mean, he doubled down on all the things that we wanted to recall him for. And one of our ballot statements that we had on our ballot, one of five, was the toxic work environment that he was creating. Well, you could see that at the front table. I mean, it was almost palpable the way the staff dealt with him. They just, and we, and one of our county commissioners, um, we were very cognizant of what this might do to her if we did a recall. Like, he doesn't know a lot about the community, which I said.
Hmm.
And he did say things like, well, it's her friends. She's starting it. She's the one behind it, which she was not at all.
You're
And
talking about Sue
I'm
Hansen.
talking about Sue Hansen. And
Right.
she wasn't the reason we did the recall. I mean, she'll benefit from this, and the county will benefit from this, not so much her,
Right.
but it wasn't for her by any means. But yeah, I mean, we vacillated. I think there was probably about 3 weeks that we would wait for the next work session, BOCC work session, and the actual meetings. Like, maybe he'll get up there and say, I've thought about this, and this is this, that, and the other. And it's just like Linda said, if you ever question why we do a recall, you just have to watch some of the BOCC meetings. It's
Mm.
100% clear. Yeah.
Well, I think two of the things that really tipped the scale towards initiating a recall were the way that he handled a couple of things. The forced resignation of a very well-respected, highly talented county manager, Frank Rodriguez, and a very talented, very qualified county attorney, Marty Whitmer, forced their resignations. And that goes back to before he had won his primary, but he wasn't sworn in yet. And he told the county commissioners in a public meeting, you cannot hire the county manager till I get on board. And they're like, yeah, we got work to do, and that's
Right.
6 months, and we're going to do our work.
Hmm.
Anyway, so I don't know if that's why the minute that he did come in and get sworn in January, it made Frank Rodriguez was very qualified and very respected, had a huge resume we were just so lucky to have him. And he just made his life miserable. And the county attorney is saying, Mr. Mijares, this is how the protocol works. And long story short, forced both of them out. And he says that their resignation was voluntary. They say it was absolutely not. We watched it in public hearings. And then during the county commissioner meeting, when that decision was made, there was an agenda item saying, county manager, whatever, and then public input or vice versa. All of that to say, when it came time for public input, he said, sorry, none, we're not taking it today. Because he didn't want to hear the community say, wait a minute, think about this. This guy is great. Marty Whitmer is qualified. So that was another big thing. It's completely took it off the agenda. And that caused, so then they had to, so then they, they had a severance package.
Hmm.
Each of them did. And another staff member, Emily Sanchez, just resigned. She was assistant manager. She just said, I'm not dealing with this guy. So she took off. Smart move. Um, but anyway, so that caused that just the severance package was $177,000. Then they had to backfill those positions. We cored this, so we know exactly how much this costs. And then they have to advertise for to fill those positions. All of that to say that was a $500,000 right there. And it's only gotten worse because he did appoint a person, or the three commissioners did appoint an interim, Leslie Kwan, who was the HR director, once again, highly qualified. People respected her leadership. She took that role on for, I don't know, a couple months. And then in a public meeting, she resigned, saying she felt harassed by Scott Mijares. So
Wow.
the pattern of toxic work environment, the pattern of disrespect continued in a public way that it's like we have no choice. We can, we're not going to put up with this. So now, I think what's important now is the voters can decide. There are those of us that were involved with this recall, felt really strongly that we need to try and get these signatures. No, but 17% of recalls are successful. It's a very high or low, depending on which way you look at it. It's very difficult to get that done. We got it done. And now it's up to Skamahetas to defend his record, and it's up to us to continue to educate the community about why we're doing this. And in November, they can vote.
Right.
We hope that they will vote yes to recall, and that's what we will be working on in the next couple months.
Excellent. I
We,
mean, you're right. And we have one of our viewers, Marianne Tagman, just mentions recalls take a lot of work. Would you agree with that, Phoebe?
oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, I mean, you just take each day as it comes. But when we turned 5,000 and 5,248 signatures in last Monday,
That was a beautiful picture, by the way.
that
I
was a
love that.
beautiful day, by the way. We we just felt like our head would beaten our head against the wall, and all of a sudden we pulled it off. Like, okay, well, in hindsight, I did not know how much work that was going to be, and it's not so much the physical work; it's the thinking about it all the time.
Hmm.
Like, what's going on here? What can we do here? Who's there? And I think it's probably the best time that I would ever say, if you're going to do anything of this magnitude or even smaller, you got to get a good team.
Right.
And I tell you, the core team we had of about 25, they were stellar.
Mhm.
I mean, they each had their own talents and they stayed in their lane between social media and planning events and doing our petitions. I mean, they made Linda and I look really, really good because we could not have done anything without the way they owned it and worked together. And like I said, stayed in their lane. They knew what they had to do. So when we went live, because you can't start a recall on a new seated county commissioner till they've been in office for 6 months. And before that, we had one of our worker bees did a full training on petition circulators, how to collect signatures, where to go, where to stand, where you can't stand, all the nuances of that. At that meeting, we had over 70 people show up to be petition circulators. I think that's probably the night that I myself realized this is going to happen. If we'd have had 10 people show up, I'd have gone, well, okay, we're going to have to work a lot harder than I thought we were going to have to work. But at the end of the day, we had over 100 circulators out there in Montrose County. And I mean, down in the West End, Olathe. I mean, we had them all over the place. And get a good team and a lot of good communication between that team. And yeah, was it a lot of work? It was a lot of work. Was it worth the work? We made some really good friends. We had some great times. We had some incredible conversations with people on the street. Yeah, it was all worth it, but yeah, a lot of work.
How
And
would
then
you?
yeah,
Oh,
about week
go ahead,
3 or 4, this was a 5-week campaign. Yeah, normally you have 60 days, 2 months to do a recall, but because we wanted this on the November ballot, we had to get our signature submitted by the 18th of August. And so we had a short period of time, but along about week 3 or 4, the first week was real exciting because it was happening and people were so excited. And then it's like, we can't let these people down. Phoebe and I would say, these people are counting on us. We got to do this thing. And then what ended up happening, as Phoebe said, is they inspired us, and then that we inspired them, and it was a very synergetic experience, unbelievable actually. And the thing that's interesting about it is we had some very, very committed Republicans, former members of the Republican Central Committee on our committee.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a lot of Republicans who would, they were, they'll like, I'm not sure I can sign because I'm not sure I want that. I don't want him to see my name, but I will absolutely vote for this. And that we heard over and over again, which just reinforced to both of us, that's why we've got to do this. If
Right.
somebody is afraid to exercise their First Amendment right to sign a petition to recall because they're afraid of retribution, that guy's got to go.
That's an
Oh,
excellent point. And within that, so do you think it was key to have kind of that broad coalition of bringing in Republicans and across the board? Like, what type of group of people did you have, would you say, for your, that 2025?
You know what? I tell you, Nick, it was very diverse. We had
Mm-hmm.
young, we had old, we had unaffiliated, Democrats, a lot of Republicans. I mean, it was, and when we would have meetings or even talk about each other, there's some people I don't know what their party affiliation is, and we
Right.
just work with them for 5 weeks, but clearly we had a common goal. And you know what they always say, find a common goal to work together. Well, that's one of the beauties that happened with this recall, is that we all came together with the common goal, and we knew that we needed them and they knew we needed us. I mean, we had Roger Rash, who was the last, did an 8-year term, 2 4-year terms as county commissioner. He was out there. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
and nobody made excuses for being out there. Nobody was doing things like, don't tell them who's got this circulator thing I'm doing. I mean, they were in it. They did not, especially like Roger. I mean, he left the place in really good shape, my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And then it just was trashing within 6 months. They, like Linda said, they worked with the city, they got stuff done, um, and they just, I mean, what's his name? Who are we calling? Scott Mijares wouldn't even go to some of the city meetings that they used to go to before, because they were
Okay.
just a bunch of liberals. I'm not going to go to that meeting. I mean, just
So
wouldn't even attend them. Yeah, they
just
had
generating chaos, it seems like.
just totally like, I mean, and that's just one example of certain organizations that the sitting, well, we won't go into how he became the chair of the BOCC, but they expect that person to be at these meetings.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't want him there. He wouldn't show up. They
Mm-hmm.
basically went to public comments and said, this seat is not open for you. For you. It is open for Commissioner Hanson, but it is not open for you. I mean,
Just
we
turning
so,
people off
yeah,
left
the
and right.
thing that's important going forward, and Phoebe and I are going to be working. I mean, we're going to take a couple days, maybe a
Please
couple
do.
days off,
Yeah.
yeah,
but not many, because we have to continue to inform and educate the community, because this is an important election. The community now gets to decide.
Mm-hmm.
Because remember when he was elected, when he won his primary, only Republicans could vote.
Yep. And
because
you
it
had
was a
no
Republican
opponent,
primary, right?
right, in the
And
general.
and that's the way the system is, and that's fine.
Hmm.
But the majority of registered voters in Montrose County are unaffiliated, then Republicans, and then Democrats. So there was a huge, probably, I don't know what I'm saying, like 60 some percent of Montrose County residents didn't get to vote for him.
It's a great
And
point.
so, and he barely won his primary. So
Hmm.
now voters they get to decide. Do they like what they see? Then vote no. If they don't like what they see, then vote yes to recall. And that's what we really want to communicate to our citizens is, many of you didn't get a chance to vote for this guy. You didn't choose him. So now you get to choose if you want him to stay or go. And I think that's going to be our messaging going forward.
That's such a powerful point, and that's two things we want to bring up. So, within the Better Together view, this is exactly what we look at, and those what you mentioned, Phoebe, of that common point of like this is what we can agree on. Things are bad. This guy is disrupting across the board, and we're not having good government. And then Linda talking about bringing in the more democracy side of getting more people involved, have your voice be heard. On that point, what's the next steps? So there's going to be a vote in November then for the
Yes,
recall? Okay,
yes.
walk us through.
It's going to be a simple question on the ballot. Shall Scott Mijares be recalled as County Commissioner District 1? Yes or no? And we are advocating for yes.
Okay. And then at yes, what happens? If you get it passed, where do you go after that?
Well,
Well,
the petition that people signed was a petition to recall a county commissioner and demand the election of a successor candidate.
Okay.
So there is a successor candidate. We will be submitting signature petitions for her this coming week to the clerk and recorder. We feel like we have this significant number. What's our favorite phrase? Deemed sufficient.
oh, my new two
We feel
favorite
like we
words are
have enough
necessary.
signatures
Yeah.
to place her name as a successor candidate.
Okay. So you have to have a candidate up there? Was that part of the requirement for the recall?
We didn't have to. I mean,
Okay.
there's two separate things. There's the recall and there's the successor candidate. It just so happens that Phoebe and I and some of our others are involved in both. But
Sure. That's
they are
common.
two separate things. And
Hmm.
the successor candidate is highly qualified, um, willing to step in and serve in the remaining 3 years. So we're excited for the community to get to know her. Once again, we have to wait until the signatures are certified by the clerk.
Right.
And
Okay.
let me also say, Nick, what you're not seeing in there, this whole, how many months? 5 months, 6 months.
Hmm.
We because he's in District 1, and that's the seat that we're recalling. Montrose has 3 districts, and District 1 clearly is not flush with a lot of really good candidates that we didn't know about. So
Hmm.
when you say, did we have to find a candidate? I would say yes, personally, yes, because we can't open up that seat, because then I think the Republican Central Committee here would just pick somebody else to put
Hmm.
in there, and that's not what we wanted. And so we actually then, with that work of a committee, narrowed it down to 5 really, really, really good candidates, and that committee as a whole. So it wasn't Linda and I over coffee in my kitchen one morning going, hey, let's go with this one. I mean,
Right.
we actually turned it over to the committee, asked them the same questions. They all voted. And she was overwhelmingly their choice for a lot of reasons. And she
Hmm.
is an unaffiliated um, person. So,
Nice. I think
so
that's
it's not,
cool.
I also want to say, Nick, that a lot of people think that we did this recall because we wanted to overthrow the county commission. We want to not let it be all Republicans, and that's not true. I mean,
Mhm.
we're doing it because we want good representation. Yeah.
And you had Republicans on your
Mhm.
committee too that cared about that
Yeah.
too. I think
Yes.
that
Right.
shows for itself.
Right.
And the last three commissioners that were seated were great.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
And
There
they
was
were
no
all
recall
up.
attempts then. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Right. I mean, I wish can we take a few more minutes? Because I got a couple technical questions for you all.
Yeah. But can I just say something like, as also
Of course.
this being a grassroots, really, this is epitomizes what a grassroots can do. Like you
Hmm.
started. And I was thinking today how we got so many signatures by going to book clubs and coffee groups and having our circulators do that. And I mean, those people talk to other people. So we certainly did it at large events and music events and farmers market. I mean, that was great, but don't ever underestimate the people you have coffee with, because they'll go out, especially in this community, and say, hey, guess what's happening? You need to find that. And we are very vocal about where we would be. We had a web page like, we're going to be here. And our circulators were on it, that they were there. If we said we're going to be at the post office every day, we were there every day. Yeah. So that's just something that I underestimated going in. I thought we would stand on a busy corner and get 4,500 signatures. And that wasn't the truth. I mean, we took it from the very bottom and did not leave one rock over unturned. Yeah, to find a signature.
And that's kind of my last question to you all. And then last word. But I'm a nuts and bolts guy. Like was a professional community organizer. Now I do it just, on my free time. Um, so how did you all, that's in a rural community, basically, right? We have some kind of city-ish, right? Same here in Mesa County, but rural. And 5 weeks to collect 5,000 signatures, that does not seem possible. Obviously it is. And you all did it, but you almost did the impossible. Like, how did you, what I like to say, how'd you keep the trains on time? I think that's such a big thing that, organizers have to do, or groups have to do. How did you just keep that momentum going and push through? It's a huge task.
we met weekly,
Okay.
and we had many of our volunteers would attend county commissioner meetings,
Hmm.
and many of our other volunteers would watch the meetings and say, okay, we got to keep doing this. And we had such a strong team. Like Phoebe said, we had people that scoured the community calendars. What are some events? And we would have a sign up. We had an amazing person who was in charge of events. And okay, so we're going to have, there's going to be this farmer's market, and who's going to sign up? And then people would sign up and be there and have to be there. And I just think we scoured the community calendars, and we showed up, and being at the post office, library, and rec district every single day.
Okay.
Um, so I think the last few days we said, only 2 more days and then you won't see us again. So I think we were getting tired, and the community,
Yeah.
but so many times do we hear, thank you, thank you, thank you for doing this. Thank you for doing this. Can I sign again? I'd like to sign again. No, you can't.
And
Right.
actually, three people did sign again, but
Yeah,
we're going to
we
go with
did.
that. But
Sure.
and also we did weekly counts.
Uh-huh.
So we divided it into team leaders, and then we had people
Smart.
under the leaders. This was one of our Joy Montoya Bowes, who just the brain trust on this part. And so we had people that were responsible for people underneath them. And so we
Hmm.
would do weekly counts. And so as the counts came in and the numbers went up, that motivated them even more. And
Right.
as we were coming into our last week, a week before last, we had enough signatures, but we also knew with an error rate, we had validators who would actually had previous experience validating petitions. So they worked off record with us, and we would scan them and they'd look at it. And we were running about a 10 to 10.5% error rate, which our director of elections, Tressa Gines here, said expect a minimum of 15%.
Mm.
So that only was indicative and reflective of how well trained and serious our circulators hit the streets. I mean, they watched it. And so that last week we had enough signatures, but we did not have enough to pad it. I mean, now we needed some in the bank. So then we put it back on the team leaders to ask their team if they could 10 teams, if each team could just get 60 more signatures. And like on my team, with 10 of them, I then took it to them and I said, if each one of you could just get 6 more signatures this week, 6 more. So, I mean, you put it in a context that's very doable. Like Nick, if I told you to go get 6 people doing something in a week, I'm sure you could sell that. I mean, at that point, they had done it. They knew they could do it. So that was part of it. Let's put it in realistic terms, that if each one of you could be responsible for just 6, and how many did we get that last week? Like
We did
a
great.
lot. We did great. Yeah. I mean, when we counted them Monday morning before we walked to the courthouse or to the DOE's office to turn them in, and Linda, we were going through each petition and like this one.
We hand counted everyone.
Yeah. And looked at them to make sure that we had a notary. I mean, that was the other part. Everyone has to be notarized. So we had a notary here in my kitchen again on Friday afternoon. And it was just one time we had 7 people deep waiting to have their petitions notarized. We double checked that. And when the final count came in before we left to walk to the DOC's office, and Linda looks up and she said,
5,428.
yeah. And I teared up. It's like, you got to be kidding me. I mean, this is what these people did. I mean, I didn't get 5,428, but they did that. They did that because they wanted to do that. Yeah.
Yeah. It's people standing up for the government that they want and deserve. And I so appreciate both of you for putting in that work. Linda, any last words here for, as you head into this final stretch?
This is what democracy looks like.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Phoebe, Linda, good luck to both of you. You're always welcome on Better Together. If you ever want to reach out to more folks, we appreciate you. What's one way just people can learn more about this effort?
Recallscottmijares.com.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
And tell their friends, this is not underrated. Like I said, tell your friends that live in Montrose County, and they have a lot up in Mesa County that have friends down here. Tell them, hey, do you know what's going on? And do you know what? Yeah, you need to vote. We need now people to show up at the polls. I mean, we've done a lot of the heavy lifting, and now it's up to the voters, like Linda said. And I think that I just have to believe if we can go out and get 5,000 plus signatures, we can certainly get people to go to the polls and vote. Yep.
You all got the momentum. So I
Yeah.
wishing you all luck. Thank you again for, helping educate our community and our members here. We are going to continue to follow and we'll provide updates on our Facebook page. But thank you again, ladies. Hope you can enjoy the rest of your weekend and get some rest. You deserve it. And then I know you'll be right back at it. So appreciate you all again.
Yeah. Thanks, Nick. It's fun.
Of course. All right, good. See y'all.
Bye-bye.